as well. And we'll be getting very excited from trackside. Right, let's head down to the paddock if we can. Toto Wolff is here as well today. He's with Craig Slater.
Toto, could you first of all give us your assessment of what you've seen this morning, both in terms of how your own team's got on, and I wonder, has your eye been caught by Vettel's headline time as well?
Yeah, it's always, you need to be disciplined, because we are all keen in looking at lap times, and obviously you want to be quick and on the top of the leaderboard at every single session, but it's not the purpose of the test. It's to go through all the parts that you want to look at, and look at what the data and sensor tell you. And yeah, I've seen the time. The time was very quick, 2 seconds quicker than everybody else, and definitely the Ferrari has been going strong this morning.
Mattia Binotto has said if push comes to shove this season, he'll prioritise Sebastian Vettel at his team. He has a very young driver alongside him. Why is it different, I sense, at this team?
I don't know. I think first of all, Mattia has a tremendous task in front of him, and I believe that he wants to do it his own way. And team order is always a very controversial topic. We've discussed it last year, be it within Mercedes or at Ferrari. And coming out with that at the beginning of the season is a statement.
That's interesting. And just in general, and finally from me, one or two people have wondered how he'll get on becoming the sole responsible person in charge of that team, moving from being technical boss. Do you foresee any problems for him? And what kind of personal relationship might the two of you have, bosses of maybe the two leading teams in F1?
I've known Mattia for quite a long time, for many years as the technical director. First as the engine boss, and then as the technical director, and then obviously now he stepped up to being the team principal. And I respect him. He's a very intelligent man, and knows how to maneuver his way through the paddock, and will be a force to be reckoned with. Absolutely.
Plenty of time to dissect the politics of Formula One. New team principal, of course, at Ferrari for this year. You mentioned shiny tyres, Karun Chandok. Yes, he's now showing me his phone. I've got various tweets here that aren't from Pirelli, from our eagle-eyed viewers around the world. Nev Holmes, tyres are shinier because Pirelli have started using chrome moulds for the first time in F1, no effect on performance. Frank De Visser, thank you very much, says they're shiny because of the chrome moulds. Someone you know, Mr. Tiff Nadell, messages in as well.
Mr. Needles, how are you, Tiff? Hope you're listening and enjoying it.
Well, he's watching. I'm sure we'll get a rant about F1.
Well, he's normally grumpy and ranting about something.
We'll
anyway.
get a rant about F1 not being as good as the old days sooner or later. New tyres, Karun. Look shiny as Pirelli. Pirelli are using new chrome moulds, and tell Crofty never to mention Kimi in the same sentence as Nige. So there you are.
Well, Tiff did biff Nigel off in a touring car race into the wall at Donington. Do you remember that?
Yes, I do, yes. Is that the one where Murray Walker then prodded Nigel on the head and asked where did it hurt?
That was in the 80s when he hit his head on the way to the podium. No, I think this was Nigel went off and did a one-off touring car race, didn't he, at Donington, and Tiff nudged him off the track at the old hairpin and sent him into the wall. I'm sure I'm going to get a ranting, abusive tweet from Tiff Nadell in about 10 seconds, but you know, that's how I saw it anyway.
Was he driving a Volvo? Not Tiff. Was Nigel driving a Volvo?
It was a Mondeo, I think, wasn't it? It's the Works Ford. I can't remember that.
I seem to remember the accidents. I was in short tyres at that stage. And thank you, Sasha Fiedler. Since you were talking about the shiny new tyres, Pirelli is using chrome moulds. That's why. They've tried them before in F2. No effect on performance, but they look nice, don't they?
Yeah.
Karun Chandok's in charge of aesthetics this year.
Am I?
You are now. Well, now you've started beefing about the Ferrari paint.
It's only because you asked.
You know, now you've got a downer on Ferrari. I thought I'd give you a chance to comment on the shiny tyres. You obviously like them.
Yeah, I don't mind. I'm much more interested in in how they perform, and I wish they got a soft one. But basically, by the way, looking at that Mercedes there,
yes,
of Lewis Hamilton, who's back out on track, by the way, I'm going to say the end plate lights are flashing when he's harvesting, because they were flashing there on the entry into turn 13, I know.
Yeah.
So I do think that they, to answer the question about 45 minutes ago, I do think that they do flash when they harvest as well.
So there you go. What it needs to be. I do think that because the closing speeds are so much greater when a car is harvesting in front, you do need that sort of guide. Motorsport history, my prediction, bold predictions at #AskCrofty, is that Leclerc will not only grow beside Vettel, but will have outscored Vettel at the end of the season. Now,
wow.
That is a bold prediction.
That is a bold prediction.
Outscored Sebastian Vettel by the end of the season.
Sorry, Crofty, just have a look. This is a good shot of that front wing you were talking about earlier on the Sauber.
Yeah.
Look at the outrage. It's basically the top
There's
bit
the
is
gap.
missing. You can see that gap on the top flap there. And interestingly, the center section of that top flap is a single piece, which is completely the opposite of what every other team has been using for the last 4 to 5 years, really. So a very different aero philosophy going on in that Sauber. And I wonder if some of it is from... Do you think Ferrari are using Sauber as a bit of a test bed? Do you think there's a bit of sharing of information going, hey, what, if you try this, if you learn something, we could learn something off you there?
I think in modern day Formula One, the idea of having a B, or in Ferrari's case, even a C team, as Daniel Ricciardo comes out for Renault, who are nobody's A, B or C teams, they're a works team all of their own. I think the idea of having those B and C teams is very appealing, and yes, that has to be the answer. Otherwise, why would Alfa Romeo be bringing that glorious name back to Formula One again? Why would Sauber have been taken over in the way that they are? Why have Haas been running almost as a Ferrari B team?
I mean,
for the last few years.
Haas are now probably the C team, aren't they?
Yeah.
That Ferrari lineup.
Well, that's a worry for Haas, isn't it? For this year, that Sauber might usurp kind of the reason, not the reason for Haas being there, but one of their reasons. Alfa Romeo, by the way, Thierry Boutsen, the last Alfa Romeo driver, I think, to stand on the podium.
Was he?
Yeah. I'm going to go back to kind of 1984, maybe on that one.
85, Patrese was in the Alfa, wasn't he? Alongside De Cesaris? Was De Cesaris in the Alfa?
Possibly. I've got this wonderful book here that tells me absolutely everything I need to know.
You look into that. Danny Ricciardo, as Crofty mentioned, his first lap in the Renault that we're seeing today. So he's just coming past our commentary box, followed closely by the Red Bull, funnily enough. So that's quite funny. And actually, Max Verstappen is in the slipstream heading down into turn 1, right behind Daniel. So that is quite funny. Daniel Ricciardo, of course, now wearing a helmet without Red Bull colours as well, which is the first time in about a decade. So it is a big change. Lawrence Stroll is here. And there are the said drivers, Daniel Ricciardo, followed by Max Verstappen. This is a fascinating, you talked about subplots, Coffee. The Daniel Ricciardo Renault story has got to be top of the pile, isn't it? Is that switch going to work out for him? How, is it something that he's going to live to regret? Or is it going to be one of those blinding, inspired career choices? And only time will tell. I don't think we're going to see the answer necessarily in 2019, but certainly when we get to 2020, 2021, that's when he's really hoping that Renault step up, because otherwise the move away from this car, Red Bull, driven by Max, is going to be hard for him to justify in his own head.
He's made a lot of noises recently, hasn't he, Daniel Ricciardo, as to the factors behind his move from Red Bull to Renault. And I thought it at the time, and I definitely think it now after hearing from him. He believed at one stage that a seat at Ferrari or Mercedes could well be his. Quickly realised that Ferrari was not going to be the destination, but I think was holding out for a Mercedes seat, or believed there was an opportunity to go there. Has since, as Max Verstappen just runs a little wide going through turn 2, has since come out and said, well, Mercedes were very conservative about their driver choice. They held on to Valtteri Bottas. The inference being that they could really have gone for him alongside Lewis, but they went for the safe option. I don't believe he thought right up until the moment where he made his decision that Red Bull would be his destiny. But he's made that decision now, and he's going to have to get used to it.
You mean Renault?
Renault, sorry, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. No, it's a really hard decision. Whenever you see a driver walk away from a top 3 car, that is a very, very bold decision. And people have drawn parallels with Lewis's choice to go to Mercedes. But I don't think it's the same thing, Crofty, because Lewis went to Mercedes in 2013. However, Mercedes have won a race in the previous year.
Yeah.
They were already, building up towards this big engine change. They'd invested more money than anybody else in 2014. There were a lot of ingredients there that told you they were going to be good sometime soon. It's a different situation. Renault haven't had a podium in a long time. They haven't won a race. That team hasn't won a race in 6 years. So it's a very different situation that Daniel's gone to, but we shall see. I think I'm going to leave the safe confines of the commentary box and head out to turn 9, because it's a glorious day. I might as well go stand in the sun and watch some race cars and report back from there. I mean, turn 9, this is where Daniel's coming up to right here, the fast right-hander, the uphill blind over the crest, and that's always a great place to go watch cars and see how they're performing in a high-speed corner where the downforce comes into play. Just
before you go, some more bold predictions, though, as we watch Daniel Ricciardo. Danny Kvyat will replace Pierre Gasly in the Red Bull come Singapore. I mean, even in the topsy-turvy career of Danny Kvyat, that's quite a bold prediction there. Yeah. Car Alex 94. Fernando Alonso will replace Sainz or Norris for an off race if the car is good. Now that is a good bold prediction. I like that. Where else? Joe Evans, my bold prediction: Leclerc to win the head-to-head in qualifying over Seb, and Daniel Ricciardo to win more than one race over the season. Is this Renault good enough to win races? Now, as part of their 5-year plan, this is now year 3, and they say they're going to be challenging Red Bull, which was part of the 5-year plan. I don't think winning races was necessarily part of that plan.
I think if they can get podiums this year, they'll be happy with that. They need to establish themselves as the clear 4th best team, which on merit last year they were, but only just. Now they need to be clear of that midfield pack and get the odd podium, I think.
Riccardo Patrese, the last Alfa driver on the podium at the 84 Italian Grand Prix. Nick Hall, thank you very much for that one. And I was there, Crofty, 93 at Donington. Tiff wasn't popular for the rest of the race.
Right, I'm going to head out.
Oh, right, so you're because the clock is now 3:15 in the afternoon exactly, you're going.
Yes, but I'll be back at 4:15. I'm just going to go watch tracks. I'm excited to see cars on track, Crofty.
You are, aren't you? I'm missing you already, Karun Chandok. It's been lovely having you with us. Turn the mic off before you put the headset down. Basics, Chandok. Now you're back in the Skyfold, and it is great to have you back with us on Sky Sports F1 for this entire season. As we watch Daniel Ricciardo then powering down the main straight here as a Renault driver, and how long is it going to take us to get used to that one? Daniel Ricciardo not in the Red Bull fold, for whom he has spent his entire racing career in junior Formula, of course, picked up as a young Red Bull development driver, and making his debut, of course, with HRT, but still under the Red Bull wing at Silverstone in 2011. In fact, it's a shame Karun's gone, actually, because Karun was the man that first introduced me to Daniel Ricciardo with the words, watch out for this young man, he'll be Formula One world champion one day. I'll maybe mention that to him when he comes back into the commentary box in a few moments. But in the yellow and the black of the Renault now. It's just great to see him on the track, quite frankly. Great to see all of these cars on the track. Motorsport History wants to know, what's the wonderful book that I've been talking about? The Jacques Deschanel Grand Prix guide, which we get given by Ferrari at the start of the season. So there'll be a new one coming my way in Australia, and it has got every single race, drivers, engine manufacturers, teams, records, you name it. It is a wonderful book for statisticians. I have tweeted a picture of it once upon a time. Right, let's head back down to the paddock now. Craig Slater is with the Toro Rosso boss, Franz Tost.
On this first day of testing, year on year, how much better equipped do you feel heading into the new year?
Yeah, I must say that this
records, you name it. It is a wonderful book for statisticians.
Integration of the power unit is much better than it was last year.
Craig Slater is with the Toro Rosso boss, Franz Tost.
And also how the electronic boxes are being placed there. The car looks really quite well designed, and I hope that we will see this in the performance as well.
Where did Honda finish last year? So what's your kind of starting position for them, and can you give us any kind of idea what progress they've made over the winter?
They made big progress over the winter from the reliability side as well as from the performance side, and it depends now how much the other power units were developed from the direct competitors. This we will see then, I don't know yet.
And in terms of disruption with regard to their ongoing development program, will that be less this year, significantly less than last year?
Well, we will see. Also, I expect that we will not meet more than the 3 engines or power units. And if it's necessary, we put in another one, because it's for the development, it's for the future, and we are ready to go for this.
A word about James Key, who's not here, who was here last year. How much is his departure felt, and do you have any control over when he starts at McLaren?
Oh, there's nothing to say about this. As you know, currently he is employee of Toro Rosso, and what the future brings, we will see.
Brief word about your drivers. Daniel Kvyat, he was a young man when he started with you. He's been through a lot. Might he almost be better given the experiences he's had? He's had to face some adversity in his racing career. Does he come back a stronger figure?
I'm convinced about this. He was with us in the Abu Dhabi tire test, and when he came back, he immediately showed a very good performance, and if our car works, I'm convinced that Daniel can have a very, very successful season.
And what about Alex Albon? Someone we don't really know too much about, perhaps in Britain. We count him as British, even though he has a Thai license. How is he adapting?
You will know him at the end of the season, because he will do very good races, he will be successful, and maybe he will become a positive surprise of the year.
Okay, and just very finally, I heard you naming some other teams. Is that the teams you expect to be racing with this year? I mean, where do Toro Rosso fit in, do you think? What kind of rough target? I know it's hard to say at this stage, but where would you like to be racing this season in amongst?
As I always say, in the front part of the midfield, but we are out today, the first test day, and we must see now how good is the car, what our direct opponents are doing, and then we will see. But once more, I expect us to be in the front part.
Have a good season.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
I'm going to write that down. I'm convinced that Daniel will have a very successful season. Franz Tost, Barcelona, 18th of February 2019. And I'm actually so convinced by that statement, I have already written it down. Will Buxton is alongside me in the commentary box.
I'd frame that, mate.
I'm going to put it to Franz Tost halfway through the season and see what he reckons to that statement.
After they've dropped Danny.
Do you think they will?
We were talking about this
Is this
morning.
your bold prediction?
No, it's not. I just don't see what Danny gets out of this.
Well, he gets a return to Formula One, doesn't he? It's where everyone wants to be. Once you've had a taste of Formula One, you want to be back in it again.
But where does it go for him? Because it's not going to lead back to Red Bull Racing. With the best will in the world, it's not going to lead back to Red Bull Racing. So why put yourself through it?
Because there are other teams other than Red Bull out there. And don't forget, he's had a year kind of away from the Red Bull fold, working with Ferrari, seeing how other teams work as well. maturing a little bit, wandering around the paddock, speaking to people, just getting a taste of life outside that Red Bull camp?
I'm just not convinced, and I feel
You're not,
for him.
you folded your arms.
I know, and I really do that. No, I feel for him because he is a tremendously talented racer. I think he was rushed in the first instance. I've always believed that Red Bull made a massive mistake in skipping that one step of the ladder that should have been Antonio Felix da Costa's seat, and have been paying for it ever since, because if you look at the number of drivers such as an Albon or a Brendan Hartley that they had to go to someone that they'd thrown out of the system, they've constantly been chasing their tail since they, of their own sort of volition, made that step.
While we're talking about Max Verstappen pounding round the laps, and on our screens at the moment, Verstappen third fastest today with a 1:19.6 best lap. His last lap was 1:21.1. It's race simulations for the afternoon, but that's, if you're lapping around the 1:21.1s consistently, that's actually not a bad lap time compared to Vettel and Hamilton as well. They had to do something to preserve Max Verstappen's tenure within the Red Bull camp. They were kind of forced into it.
Oh, yeah.
Didn't want to lose Verstappen.
You mean by demoting Danny when they did?
Yeah.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
And were proven, the decision was proven right when Verstappen went and won the race, and has been that successful ever since.
I mean, unquestionably.
Was it Red Bull's fault that the situation at Toro Rosso between the Verstappen camp and the science camp got so bad that they had to do something at that stage?
There's a wonderful book to be written in that entire sort of 3, 4, 5 year period over Red Bull and Toro, and even sort of coming into the end of last year, and Red Bull playing such hardball over Carlos Sainz's contract that they ultimately freed up a space at Renault that Daniel just walked straight into. The irony is not lost on anybody. It's it's a fascinating situation. I wish Danny well. I hope he has an amazing season, and as you say, I hope it sets him up either for a future, not necessarily within the Red Bull family, but certainly within Formula One, and proves, I think, to himself most importantly, that he has what it takes and deserves to be here.
For me, he's too good a driver to have left the sport in the way that he did, which I think is what you were saying on that one as well. Who knows? Who knows what the future holds for Daniel Kvyat? Where I do worry a bit is, we were talking a little bit about Sauber's role for this season. Are they a B team for Ferrari?
This is a jolly start to the season.
This is a jolly start.
What a happy-go-lucky conversation this is.
But this is not negative in any way, shape, or form. But are Toro Rosso that same B team for Red Bull? Are they that test mule at times?
I mean, the fact they've got the same rear end,
correct,
suggests yes. And will Toro Rosso have to take the engine penalty upgrades, trialing out new things for Honda? You'd imagine yes. What that will do for the confidence of a driver who's trying to make his way back into the sport, and another who is a rookie and trying to find his place within the sport, is another question entirely.
Right. Should we come up with more jolly things?
Yes, let's do happy things.
Happy things.
Happy things. The sun is out. It's not snowing. It's the first day of the season. Huzzah! Lewis Hamilton is out on track, lapping consistently and looking good. Although I think they're going to need to change that number placement. I can't make it out.
You can't?
It's a shame they've gone black instead of red. I like the red numbers on the Mercedes. A little bit of a throwback.
How can you not see it? You're obviously not talking about the 44 on the engine cover, are you, Will Buxton? There's a lovely 44 at the back there. Are you talking about the one on the actual the nose?
Yeah, on the nose.
Can't you see that as a 44 then?
No, not really.
Do you actually look for numbers?
Yeah, I do.
When the car's on the track?
Hello?
He did that before. I don't know why, but he did that before. Do you... I'm intrigued by this.
So I know
because I don't look for numbers, but as a fan, do you?
You were talking earlier about helmet design.
Yes.
And I used to look for the flash of colour that was the car, and then the flash of colour that was the helmet, and immediately make a call on which driver was which, because it was just the easiest, most recognisable way to pick everybody out. Now it's not quite so easy with Halo, which is why I wish they would do either. So on the little fin at the back of the car, I'd love it if that was something like a national flag, for example. I brought that up on social media the other day and had a text message sent to me from a team PR that said, it's a lovely idea, but that part of the car is very valuable for brand